I have enjoyed seeing us get episodes out every week. I think that's
good.
And I imagine that our listenership also appreciates it, although I can't really tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
So that listenership of ours, it's hard to know what they're feeling. They keep it all locked up.
They do. They're very closed off. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. You know, I liked it, but I feel like I liked it significantly less than I wanted to like it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, this was like the final episode of Amy and Rory. And I don't know, I feel like I liked how they went out, but the episode I think was largely confusing to me.
Yeah.
Which seems to be more and more often the case with Stephen Moffat episodes. And it just seemed a little weird to wrap up, the sort of bittersweet ending of Amy and Rory with this sort of confusing, complex story that really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well, in a way, that's kind of appropriate to their run on the show.
I guess that's fair. I suppose it would have been a bit much to ask Stephen Moffat to suddenly start making sense. I don't know. It's interesting because this is the first time we've said goodbye to a companion, for real, since Stephen Moffat has been in control.
Since Donna, really.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I don't know.
Well,
there were a lot of things I liked about this episode. It's just that it was a little bit more confusing than I guess I wanted.
I don't know that I would say I was all that confused.
I was.
Did you watch it once or more than once?
I watched it twice and then sort of bits and pieces.
Yeah, I've seen it twice, and I don't think there were things that. I think there were things that the episode just didn't bother to explain or justify, but I don't think there were things that it was trying to explain or justify that I wasn't getting.
I suppose that's kind of the case. I would agree that that's kind of how I felt, but I guess
what were the points of confusion?
Well, like why the angels were really going after Rory? That did not make a whole lot of sense to me.
I think they would have gone after anyone, and they just happened to find Rory.
Okay, and I don't understand how the Doctor came in possession of this book. And I realize that he sort of points out that he's not even trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a little strange. They don't even bother to question that. I don't think. Did he question that at some point?
Well, what happens is Amy asks where the Doctor got this book. He says he found it in his pocket. And,
right.
And then he says something to the effect of, I don't know how it got there and I'm not terribly interested, or something to that effect, where he just sort of waved his hand and said, I don't know, it just got there somehow.
I would imagine that the best explanation I could think of for that would be that River would have put it there in some adventure that is in his past but her future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but short of River being some sort of omniscient being, I'm not sure how she deduced that this was the appropriate time to give the Doctor that novel, because it had to happen at that particular moment. Like, he had to be reading it when Rory got coffee, or else it wouldn't make sense.
Well, he might have just had it for a while.
Right, but...
and that's when he decided to read it, because, that's just how things turned out, and she knew that was how things would turn out, because she had heard about it. Which,
I guess, is not unheard of in Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who. Certainly that's kind of how it worked in Blink. So I guess that sort of matches up. Also, I didn't really I guess the thing about the angels is that it seemed like things that did not, or were not previously angels, were now capable of being angels.
You mean just regular statues?
Right. It looked like, because the angels are like a species.
Yeah.
And I thought that, like, the angel look was kind of what that species looked like.
Right.
And I didn't really think that there was any sort of variance there. Could very well be that there is, but this is not really addressed at all.
Well, it's mentioned that at one point River says, it's like every statue in New York has become an angel.
Right.
And the Doctor says, oh, so they've taken over New York just because they can. There's no explanation as to whether it's true that they can turn other statues into angels, or whether other statues have just been replaced by angels, or what exactly is going on.
Right, I would almost feel like the statues have become angels because, unless there just naturally exists this giant angel that kind of wanted to come to New York and was like, hey guys, can we do something about this? Like, there just happens to be this really big statue, just sitting out there, you could probably, just be that one. It probably went through Angel HR.
Yeah.
For, probably like a transfer request or something. Anyway, it seemed like they'd almost have to become the angels, which I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, the angels, what we were told in Blink is not that they are statues that come to life. They are living things that turn to statues.
Right. So that sort of doesn't really jive, I guess. I don't know. But I don't know. A lot of the stuff confuses me. As I mentioned in last week's episode, I don't get why only sight matters when observing an angel.
They kind of did this in Blink a little bit too, but I often feel like an angel will be a statue when nobody's looking at it. Like, the gigantic Statue of Liberty angel doesn't seem to activate even though Amy and Rory are looking at one another.
Right.
Not it.
Well, and then there's the argument that, there's the camera, which, I mean, I don't know how much sense that makes, but if you imagine that Doctor Who is happening in a universe where there is a microscopic camera watching it, and actually that's true. Does it have to be like a human looking at it, or can like a fly be looking at the angel?
I think it's best not to think about that too much.
And bacteria. Can bacteria observe things? They probably can't.
Presumably not.
Unless they have little, whatever those things are called that sort of stick out. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about.
And apparently the gigantic Statue of Liberty angel, no one could see that, apparently.
Right.
Because it was able to get all the way from its island, where it sits on top of the bridge between the two universes. Is able to get all the way from there to the Winter Key.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't, I mean, sure. Like, I guess that these problems, they're not hugely important to the Amy Rory kind of story. I keep saying that phrase, the Amy Rory story.
That sounds like a Lifetime movie. As far as the Amy and Rory finale was concerned, I liked that a lot. I really liked the scene on top of the roof. I really liked the scene in the graveyard. But at the same time, I kind of wished that the way they had left had been in some way that spoke more to the concerns raised in the previous episode.
Right. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, we just made a big deal about how there are consequences now to Amy and Rory, their safety. But this is not really... The Doctor fails, basically, at this. And, I do have to say that I do like those scenes that you pointed out. I really think that, like, especially in the graveyard, like, just like the Doctor's despair, like Matt Smith just did a fantastic job with that. I mean, like, he really like sold that really, really well, and it was so visible, like the pain that he was in. It was just really, I mean, like those concerns that were brought up made in the previous episode really made this all the more difficult, or rather all the more, I guess, poignant, I guess you could say, that this was happening. And I mean, like, the thing is that as far as Brian knows, they're just never coming back. They've just never come back.
Well, presumably, unless we encounter him again, which, I mean, who knows?
All of this hinges on a sort of concept that had never really been discussed before, and was sort of just, I feel like it was kind of just invented for this episode, which was that if you read it, it's a fixed point. Like, if you know how it's going to turn out, it becomes a fixed point.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been the case before in Doctor Who, where you have to avoid knowing the future because knowing it fixes it in place. That is a concept in the science fiction novel Dune. That's a concept in that, but it's never been in Doctor Who as far as I know.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that was kind of weird to me that they introduced it. And I mean, like, I understand that it became key to the whole plot, but and I understand that was, it was obviously hugely significant, and was basically the reason that this whole thing happened, and that the Doctor can now no longer see Amy and Rory. The only thing is that there's so many ways around what Rory sees on his tombstone, his supposed tombstone. First of all, I mean, like, all right, it's it's his name, so it's probably him. Mm-hmm. It's safe to say that, like, it would be a really weird coincidence if it were just some other Rory Williams. But all it says is that he died there and that he was age 82.
Yeah.
I don't know why it would be impossible for Amy and Rory to somehow... Also, I don't really know exactly I mean, obviously, we're not really meant to know the specifics of time travel and why the Doctor can't go to New York. I don't know if it's that he can never go to New York again, or just he can't go to New York 1938.
That's incredibly weird how that's brought into the story and how that's used as the single thing that prevents him from ever seeing Amy and Rory again. Why couldn't he just go to 1937 and wait?
Right.
Or why couldn't he just go to 1940 and pick them up a couple years late?
Right.
Or why couldn't he go somewhere else and walk?
Right. Yeah, like, is the entirety of 1938 off limits now? Or is it just around New York? And if it is, then yeah, there are so many ways that he could just sort of slip in, or he could use a vortex manipulator like River did.
Exactly. Go on.
Well, and just so all that we really know about that tombstone is that he died, whatever, at age 82. I don't know if we know the year. I don't know if that was on the tombstone, but I didn't pay attention to it.
There are no years on the tombstone. It just says their ages when they died, which is weird.
Yeah, that is weird, actually. It is not out of the realm of possibilities that the Doctor could, find some way to get back to New York, take Amy and Rory home, let them live out their lives, and then when it's time for them to die, take them back to the year that they're supposed to die, in New York, and just let them die there.
Just let them die.
Yes, just like Solomon.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think that would be out of the realm. That would not contradict any evidence that we are given. That would contradict absolutely nothing.
Right. So I said before on this podcast, and I continue to say, in fact, I think it even more strongly now, that we have not truly seen the last of Amy and Rory.
Yeah.
And whether that means, Stephen Moffat's going to bring them back for the anniversary, or maybe that means someone else, for Doctor Who's 75th anniversary wants to have a bunch of returning characters, and so Amy and Rory happen to be among them, and they're much older, and we see a much older version of them.
Right.
I just think that the notion that this unbreakable barrier has been put up between the Doctor and Amy and Rory is something that I don't buy all that well. And the thing is, we've done this before. Mm-hmm. Back in the old days, it used to be that the companions would leave the Doctor when they didn't want to travel with him anymore, or when, in some cases they died.
Right.
And it was not that common for things like unbreakable barriers to be put between the Doctor and the companion. But that's how Rose left. And that's how Donna left. There was an unbreakable mental barrier.
Right.
And I feel like those supposedly unbreakable barriers are actually breakable because impossible things happen in Doctor Who. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah. I feel, in one hand, I do understand that, and I think that that's probably true. I think that, yeah, I would agree with you that we probably have not seen the last of Amy and Rory, but it's so, yeah, and I feel like this has been done so much, it almost has lost meaning that, oh, yeah, we're separated now, and we can never see each other again.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, it does sort of take away from it. I mean, even with Donna, she didn't die when she remembered the Doctor. She just sort of blew up, but didn't actually blow up.
Yeah.
So the consequences weren't even really that serious there, although obviously that was still a permanent barrier in some sense, because, she can't travel with the Doctor anymore because she just keep blowing up. And I imagine that would get inconvenient.
Yeah, unless, they found some magic thing to cure her, because that kind of thing happens on Doctor Who.
Exactly. It does. It happens routinely.
But I think it probably would have been more interesting to see a scenario where Amy and Rory leave the Doctor by choice.
Yes.
Either by their choice or by his choice.
Right.
A scenario where that just comes to that, because I think that's, in a way, that's more dramatic.
It is, that's true, because there is nothing that the Doctor can do about that. Short of Amy and Rory just changing their minds, there's no way that they would ever travel with him again. And it could be that they would just change their minds, if that, makes sense. But yeah, I would like to see that. I still think that this was a very good way for them to leave.
I do agree, yeah.
I liked it, I just feel like there was something about it that I just didn't like as much as I maybe should have. And maybe that's a personal problem. I liked it, but at the same time, I was starting to get a little tired of the Ponds.
I was actually starting to like them a little bit, because I had been kind of tired of Amy for a while.
Right.
But I was actually starting to like Amy more in this past run of episodes, so...
Interesting.
Especially as I think these episodes have sort of been more... They've sort of taken the characters to a more interesting place where it's like they're examining how weird and unique their relationship is with the Doctor.
Right.
And I feel like the beginning of this episode also kind of reflected that pretty well, too.
Yeah.
What did you think of River?
I don't know. What was I supposed to think of her?
I don't know. I actually liked her a lot more in this episode than I have in recent episodes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you know what I liked was that she sort of dropped the whole mysterious act.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really know what has been happening between her and the Doctor. It could be that they're pretty much on equal footing now in terms of how much they know about each other.
Well, I'd say by now, I might even say the Doctor has the upper hand on her.
That could be.
Because of the silence in the library, which she's much closer to that than we've ever seen her before.
That's true.
And I think that's kind of what I like. I feel like not only has she kind of dropped the mystery, like in Silence in the Library / Forest of the Dead, there was mystery about her, but the mystery that was about her was because she was really a mystery, not because she was like acting mysterious,
right,
or anything, like saying, "Oh, you'll see very soon," like all that stuff.
Right.
And I also felt like the thing about her character that I had become frustrated with was the way everything about her was completely focused on the Doctor.
Yes.
And she had this sort of wide-eyed obsession with the Doctor in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah.
But I feel like this takes her completely out of that and takes her more into a place where she's her own person and she's even very frustrated with the Doctor. And
right.
It's a much more interesting take on her, I think.
Yeah. They seem much more like a married couple here than they ever have.
Yeah.
Actually, they seem much more like a married couple here than they ever have, except with perhaps the exception of Silence in the Library, which is interesting because the Doctor did not know that he was married to her.
But she did.
She did. I wonder if the Doctor ever told her his name.
Well, she knows it somehow as of that point.
Right. So I have to wonder if that's happened. I was actually sort of stealthily asking if it happened in the Night and the Doctor things that I have yet to watch.
I see. You still haven't watched those?
I still haven't watched those. My discs are still out on loan. I can't.
Sure.
I guess I could look them up on YouTube or something.
Yeah, you could probably find them on YouTube. That doesn't happen, but something happens that's sort of kind of important in that, particularly in the last installment of Night and the Doctor, which is like I think it's 4 parts or 5 parts or something. But yeah, you gotta watch that.
I do. Another thing about the Doctor and River, actually it's not really about the Doctor and River, but one of the things is when River breaks her wrist, the Doctor uses regeneration energy to heal it.
Yeah, I don't know why that made sense.
Right.
It didn't seem to make much sense to me because the Doctor's been able to do weird, unexpected things with his regeneration energy, but only ever at the point where he either was about to or had just regenerated.
Right. Yeah, so that seemed a little weird to me. I don't know if that was just supposed to be something we were just supposed to accept, or if that is somehow going to be important. Probably not.
Well, we don't really know whether the Doctor still has a limitation on his regenerations.
Right, but does that also give him crazy awesome healing powers?
I don't know. Maybe once maybe if there's no limit, he has, or maybe if he has 502 or whatever regenerations, like he said in the Sarah Jane Adventures, maybe he just has regeneration energy going spare, and he could never use it before, but now he can. I don't know.
So the fact that he says that he has 502 regenerations suddenly makes it true?
Oh, I don't know if it's true.
If he just says it out loud, his body's like, oh, okay, I've got 502 now.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, like, what if, like, during the Time War, something happened, and now he has more regenerative energy, so he can use it in new ways that he couldn't use it in the classic series or something. I don't know.
Well, we know that, I'm pretty sure in the classic series, it's said that you can transfer regenerations between Time Lords, right?
Well, that's definitely true in the movie.
Oh, is that where it was?
I think that's in the movie.
Movie's canon, right?
I think by now everyone accepts the movie as canon. There was a very long time where I think a pretty vocal section of fandom didn't. But
well, that's understandable. I mean, they do say that the Doctor is half human.
Yeah, but now there's a new series, and the new series has referred to Paul McGann, has had his image.
That's true.
But yeah, the classic series did also indicate that, the Master could be given more regeneration.
That's right.
That was proposed as a reward for him helping the Time Lords in the 5 Doctors.
So yeah. I mean, like, it could very well be that there is, like, a collective pool of regenerations that all Time Lords share, and it just so happens that when they divvy them all out, everyone gets 12, and now because that the Time War happened and there's no more Time Lords left to give regenerations to, the Doctor just gets them all.
That could be true.
It's like it's communism. I guess, in action.
I guess that's communism.
Is it? I don't know how communism works. The Russians got regenerations, right? In the Cold War?
Well,
Cold War's kind of like the Time War.
Yeah, it's a lot like the Time War. Yeah, but there weren't enough for everybody to get even one. Like, there was only a very small number of regenerations, so it averaged out to everyone getting like 0.2 regenerations. The book that I guess what we're saying is that River writes the book, and I guess Amy becomes a publisher.
Right.
And it gets sent to Amy, and Amy writes the afterword, and that book is actually getting published by BBC Books.
Oh, really?
In ebook format only, I believe.
I mean, okay.
And I guess like the last half of it is just, a novelization of the episode.
I imagine that's how it would work. That's another thing, though, is like, so there's just so many weird things about this book that I just don't quite get. I mean, why did River go through the trouble of writing this whole book? Well, I mean, like, okay, I understand that...
She might have just copied it.
Well, okay, so I understand that the Doctor had to get back in time to New York somehow. He had to be told that this was happening. But he doesn't need to read ahead. The book ceases to be relevant once they get there. Well, there's the chapter titles.
Yeah.
Beyond the chapter titles, there's really nothing... The book ceased to be relevant once they got back to 1938. And so there was really no reason. I mean, I guess in some sense, maybe River's just obsessive-compulsive like that, where she needs to complete the whole story exactly as it happened. But...
Well, but the book is being published as a book that people will read. It's not just. It's kind of like the DVDs in Blink.
Okay.
It's not being created with the intention that only the Doctor will ever see it. She has to.
Well, I realize that, but there's no reason for her to follow the events that actually took place one-to-one.
Well, I mean, maybe she doesn't.
Well, okay, but then why is reading ahead bad?
I don't know.
And
because if you read ahead and it's wrong, then the wrong thing will happen.
Well, right.
I don't know.
Can River just dictate what the future holds as long as she writes it in a book and sends it to the Doctor?
I feel like I'm going to have to read the book as BBC Books releases it before I can say anything more about that, because I don't know.
I really hope that it diverges wildly from the episode.
And only the chapter titles are the same.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, and actually, hang on, because, so, the Doctor reads in the book that the chapter, like, the final chapter is called Amy's Last Farewell. This is really kind of a dick move on River's part. She didn't have to name the chapter that.
No, she could have named it something like, I don't know, the angels accidentally get them in the graveyard while they're not paying attention. Or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Like, but just like, how? Like, why would you do that, River?
Maybe she did have to. Maybe she had no choice.
But why? This makes no sense to me. And how does the universe know that this book is exactly what happens? How do they know that the information they're getting is genuine? Is there even free will? Does it even exist?
Probably not. There probably does not exist free will.
Like, they can't know with any certainty that that's what actually happened.
I mean, another thing is they read ahead. The moment that Amy reads ahead, she finds out that the Doctor breaks something. Mm-hmm. And the Doctor doesn't break anything.
No, he doesn't.
He breaks the vase when the TARDIS lands, but River breaks her own wrist.
Well, that's the thing is, well, actually,
They misinterpret what Amy reads.
Yes.
Because what Amy reads is why'd you have to break mine.
Right. Yes, and this is another problem I have, is that everything that they read could be misinterpreted. And there's so much wiggle room here. It's not like it was like a video that like River took that was, of them or something. This is River's own interpretation of the events. And I don't see how we could know with any certainty that this is actually what happens.
Yeah, I mean, and if it were binding, you'd think it would be binding whether they read it or not.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much sense that book makes. It's,
Right. I don't know. And I mean, there are just so many things about this book that just don't make sense to me. I don't know. Maybe we should read the book and review it on this podcast. I do like the idea of an angel farm.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool concept, but I want to know the mechanics of it, because was it just exclusively 1938? Like, were the angels, like, setting up in New York throughout history, and they just, like, 1938 onward, and they just always, zap people back to 1938 specifically? But then, I guess that doesn't even make sense, because then, when they're in 1938, they also zap them further back.
Do they?
Well, they were going to do it with Rory.
They zapped him somewhere else, though.
Yes, they actually did do that, but then we see him die as an old man in 1938.
True. Huh. I guess they must do something of that.
And is there no diminishing returns on this? Could they not just, like, take one dude and just port him all the way back to, you know, 1,000,000 BC?
Well, eventually you're teleporting someone back in time past the point where they're likely to be able to survive.
Fair enough. That's true. Yeah, actually, that's kind of interesting. Like, they can't... What did the angels do prior to, like, the Industrial Revolution? Like, did they not exist? Or do they just, like, travel around feasting on species who have just passed their own industrial revolutions?
I don't know.
This is stuff we have to address.
I guess you're probably right. We do.
I mean, I guess they could have done it with, like, the Silurians. I guess they could have feasted on the Silurians back then, but then that wouldn't make sense because they wouldn't be Silurian-looking angels. The Silurians would be all like, "Hey, what's with these angel statues? These look like nothing we've ever made."
Yeah, but everything looks like humans, so
that's true. Oh, I don't know.
I guess I just don't know. And I'm not going to pretend that I do.
Right. I mean, and they're a cool concept for a monster. And, you know, hats off to Stephen Moffat for making them so interesting. But there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, you know, it could be actually that, you know, their plan is to, you know, trap someone there, send them back to 1938, let them age 10 years, send them back to 1938, let them age 10 more years, send them back to 1938. Just keep doing that. And that's why we see an older version of Rory. Because he keeps being sent back to 1938. That
would follow the iterative nature of a farm.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that could be. They are milking the humans for years.
Yeah.
That is actually wow, Tom. That was really good.
It's just agriculture. That's all it is. It's just agriculture.
Yes. Well, and you know, maybe prior to this, the angels were just hunter-gatherers.
Well, that seems to be what they're doing in Blink. They're just hunter-gathering.
That's true. Wow, angels, you discovered farming.
Yeah, and they're time travelers, so that's probably later in Angel Society in 1938.
Right.
Is later than the whatever year it is in Blink.
Right. Wait, can the angels actually travel through time?
I always thought they could.
It makes sense that they could. I mean, they certainly can manipulate time. That's how they do their thing. But we don't actually... I don't know if we see them travel through time. I mean, like, there's no reason to think that they couldn't. But I just think it's interesting. I don't know if I've ever actually... Well, I don't know if I've personally seen an angel travel through time.
Well, and if you've never seen it, then it must not be true.
Right.
If it were true, you'd be seeing it all the time.
I would.
You're seeing all these angels traveling through time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot about angels we don't know.
Right, and it's...
including their connection to the Time Lords, whatever that might be.
Right. Well, and it's difficult to even say what angel behavior is, because, first of all, they all look pretty much identical, with the exception of these weird ones, like the one that looked like the Statue of Liberty. Or was the Statue of Liberty, depending on whether or not... Anyway, so we don't really know all that much about them, nor I don't think we really can. I mean, it would be almost impossible to say, hey, this angel was in, 2007 with Sally Sparrow, and now it's in 1938, so clearly it traveled through time. We don't really even know, because it's not like the angels visibly aged, so we wouldn't know if this were just an angel that moved forward in time at a, 1 second pace, or if they actually traveled back in time. It wouldn't even... And who knows what time even means to an angel. And you know what? I give up. I quit. I don't know.
You quit the angels.
I quit them. Yes. And in some sense, I feel like that would be too boring of an episode for Stephen Moffat to actually explain this stuff, if he has answers.
Yeah.
Because I don't really want to watch an episode in which an angel travels back in time.
Are you sure? It could be good.
I guess so. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see an episode of Doctor Who from the perspective of an angel. I don't know how you would do that. You'd have to always have the action happening when no one was looking. You could see him packing his bags, but only when someone looked at him, and then like his bags would be packed when someone looked away and looked back again.
Well, what's this about the bags? What bags?
I don't know. I was thinking, well, okay, so he has to bring clothes with him when he travels back in time, doesn't he? He has to bring spare robes, right? Or wings, maybe? I don't know if those are detachable.
Probably, yeah.
I know I'm going really off base here. Do their clothes get dirty? Do they have to wash them? Are the clothes part of them? Are they part of their bodies?
We'll never know. Does the ending make sense? The very ending where apparently the doctor goes back to talk to child Amy.
Okay, so I am mixed about that, because on the one hand, obviously we see that scene almost verbatim in, I think, the 11th hour. Or is it the Big Bang?
Which one are you referring to?
I'm referring to the little girl.
The shot that we see in this episode, we also see in the 11th hour. Amy is dreaming about it right before the Doctor arrives at the very end of the episode.
Okay. And she hears the TARDIS sound, of course, and I think that it was left ambiguous in that episode if that were just what she were hearing in her dream, or if that were a memory, if that was a memory.
Yeah. And, well, also, but I mean, the TARDIS is arriving in reality at that point, so that could just be the sound that's waking her up.
Well, right, and I mean, that happens, though, like when you're dreaming.
Yeah.
Sometimes sounds that you hear become part of your dreams.
True. I don't know.
Whether or not that makes sense, I have no idea. Because I would think that then Amy would remember that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, we also see in the Big Bang, we see the Doctor telling Amelia a story about the things, blah, 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 etc. You know, the bluest box ever. The bluest box ever. So I guess the timeline of what happens that night. She goes out there, waits, then the Doctor shows up and tells her a story. And then she goes to bed, and then another Doctor shows up from an earlier point in the Doctor's timeline and tells her a different thing.
Wow.
And then she remembers none of it.
Well, okay, but in the Big Bang, she was asleep when he told the story, right?
Yeah, and she does kind of remember it a little bit at her wedding, and that's what causes her to bring the Doctor back into existence.
That is what happens there. But yeah. You know, wow, poor Amy. Her timeline is just so screwed up. I don't know. How much sense that makes, I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that there's this conversation where, the Doctor comes back to Amy as a kid and says, "Oh, I'm going to take you into time and space, and we're going to do all this stuff," and then he just leaves. And then when Amy finally meets him and she says, "You were supposed to come back to me," that's what she's referring to.
So you're saying that she does remember this, and it happened all along, and we, the audience, just don't know it.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. I don't know if that makes any sense, though. It depends on what that conversation was like.
Well, assuming that the Doctor goes into detail like Amy suggests that he should in the afterword, it would imply that throughout all their travels, Amy has always kind of known what was going to happen. I would almost be interested to go back and rewatch all of series 5 and 6 and this part of 7. I don't know how much he told her about series 7. Listen, Amy, in series 7, we're gonna have some really crazy adventures. I'm assuming that the Doctor knows when he's in the next series of his own show. And every now and again he winks at the camera.
And that's what you see in the opening of Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester McCoy's seasons. The opening titles, that's why he winks at the screen.
Yes, exactly. oh, Doctor. But yeah, no. So I guess it would. I would almost like to watch that with that sort of knowing that or thinking that and seeing how much that either makes sense or doesn't make sense. That she would be aware that she's going to someday meet some pirates or things like that.
Yeah, it could just be that he reads the afterword and says, "Oh, that's a nice idea, but I'm not going to do it because it would mess with the timeline too much." So,
oh, Amy, you're so adorable.
Good thought, Amy, but no. Do we want to say general thoughts on this half season or partial season? Mini-season, seasonlet.
Sure. I think overall I liked it. I think it was a little... I'm going to just reiterate. I think that changing the titles every week was dumb, and I wish they didn't do it.
I really like the titles this week.
Okay.
I like the gray, dull, dreary, stormy thing going on.
Hey. What about when you said that you liked it colorful? Okay?
I thought that was appropriate to this episode. I mean, I wouldn't want it to be...
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that to be the title every time, but I thought that was episode appropriate.
Yeah. You would say that.
I would, and I did. So that dragged the whole half season down for you.
It was terrible
because of the titles.
I mean, so I liked the episodes, but I really wish they would just get back to doing normal Doctor Who.
How do you mean?
Series 6 was kind of not really gimmicky, but Series 6 was like a large story arc that covered stuff that I liked, but was, it was this really long story arc and really complicated story arc about the origin of River Song and kind of stuff about the Doctor's death. And, that was fine for a season. And I just feel that this season, though, didn't really have, or this half season was kind of trying, it was gimmicky. It was trying too hard to be something else. And
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
I mean, there's no real story arc in this season, and I think if there's anything about this season that I think was a little out of the ordinary, it was the fact that the Doctor wasn't traveling with the Ponds consistently. But that was fine with me. I thought it worked for the story they were trying to tell, and I thought that each episode had its own, very strong individual sense. And I don't think there's any episodes in this season that felt like, this isn't Doctor Who as I know it. I thought Asylum of the Daleks was like a really good Dalek story that had a pretty interesting twist to it with the surprise appearance of Jenna Louise Coleman. I thought Dinosaurs on a Spaceship was, I thought that was a really good solid romp, you might say. That's the word people use. Usually people use that for episodes they don't like, but I liked it. And then I thought A Town Called Mercy was a really good historical. I thought Power of Three was a really good present-day Earth invasion story. Uh-huh. And I thought this was also a really good historical focused on a returning monster. I think all of it is very... I thought this was very Doctor Who. I thought this was the most Doctor Who since Stephen Moffat took the reins.
Yeah, I'm not really arguing against the fact that these episodes didn't feel like Doctor Who. What I'm arguing against is really just this idea that they were summer blockbusters. Because I feel like that as a goal is kind of a silly thing to try to do. And I just don't like that as a goal.
I like the idea of focusing on each story as its own thing, rather than focusing on how it fits into an overall arc. I really do kind of like that, personally.
I just think that it was kind of... It doesn't feel like a season of Doctor Who, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it's short. It's not a whole season.
I realize that. But even Series 6 felt like a season of Doctor Who.
That's true. I just don't know that I agree.
I don't know. I almost just don't know how to articulate it, but it's I guess it stems from... And I have to wonder what I would have thought had I not known that this was supposed to be the case, that there were supposed to be, individual stories that were supposed to be standalone. I don't know what that would have done. I just feel like knowing that was their goal kind of set up expectations in my mind, and I just think that those... I guess it's just not what I wanted from a season of Doctor Who or a half season of Doctor Who. And I don't know, maybe I'm just some grumpy, just change-hating...
Was it the serialized aspect that you missed?
I don't know if it was necessarily the serialized aspect of it. I just, I have no problem with episodes feeling more episodic. I just felt that they went too far, I guess. I understand that Doctor Who is basically... can be anything from week to week. I just felt that here it was perhaps a little bit too far. And I wish I really wish I could articulate it better than I am, but I don't know how to say it in any other way. So I feel like my argument is almost just pointless because I can't articulate it any better. But this is just how I feel. And I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying that the episodes were bad. There was something I felt was missing, I guess. And I can't quite... I guess I just liked a little bit more cohesion between episodes.
Yeah, because there's really no through line at all. Like, especially with, the companion departure, oftentimes the reason the companion leaves will sort of tie into a story arc.
Right.
That will be foreshadowed and prefigured by other episodes. But here it was just very much contained to this one episode. This is the story of why they left.
Right.
And it doesn't have anything to do with an ongoing thing.
Right. I don't know.
But I was fine with that, personally. I thought that was good.
Well, yeah, it could very well be just a problem that I had, and the rest of, the world was fine with it. And, I'm...
We'll have to ask the rest of the world.
Yes. Rest of the world, please write in. I don't know, and I guess part of it was that it was just a half season, and I know that I'm not going to get any more Doctor Who until Christmas, and this has been the first time that a Christmas special is going to be wedged into the middle of a season.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Does that mean that that the Christmas special is one of the episodes? Like, of course it's an episode of Doctor Who, but what I'm saying is, like, when they order a number of episodes, they include, what, 13 plus the Christmas special?
Yeah.
Or is it 12 plus the Christmas special?
Well, what it usually is it's 13 episodes plus the Christmas special, and so
Okay.
it's a 14-episode order. But
Right.
when they ordered this, they ordered 14 episodes, including The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe.
Oh.
I believe that was included in this order.
So wait, that's a total of 15, or that's...
14.
So there are going to be 2 Christmas specials this season.
Essentially, if you count The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, and this upcoming episode.
The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe was such a long time ago.
Yeah. Too long.
Too long indeed. But yeah, it's just weird to think that that's part of this season. Because ordinarily you have the Christmas special, and then in the spring, the Doctor Who comes back for a full season. Or for half a season. It's going to be an especially Christmassy Doctor Who. And even there was even a brief Christmas scene in the Power of Three. So that's also a thing.
Actually, now
This
I'm
is a
seeing
really...
it's 15 episodes in this season, counting the 2 Christmas specials. So now I don't know what to believe.
Aha. Your whole world's been turned upside down
I guess so.
by a simple Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
I think that's actually probably like a common problem these days.
Whole world gets turned upside down by a Wikipedia article.
Yes.
Well, it could be.
I do not want to at all imply that I did not like this half season, because I really did. It was just that thing about them not feeling connected that really just was the only thing that I really had a problem with. I am going on the record as saying that was it. And overall, I did really like this, just that one bit. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with Jenna Louise Coleman. And I hope she's good.
I think she probably will be.
I think so too. I mean, if Asylum of the Daleks was to be any indication, then I think that even if she is a different character, I think that just her abilities as an actress are good.
Yeah.
They are good abilities. But yes.
So that's that.
That is that. Well, there's the chapter titles.
Yeah.
Which were not so good.
They were okay.
Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, I was thinking it.
Well, I'm glad I said it then.
Neither of my co-hosts on the chapter titles were so good. Watch Doctor Who.
Oh, really?
So yeah, they don't.
There's no chance that they'll hear my terrible joke.
Right, and they won't even know about it until I tell them.
Are you going to tell them?
I might mention it. And they'll be like, "Oh, okay."
Right. Okay. Anyway, shoot, what was I saying? Oh, so beyond the chapter titles, there's really nothing